Hello? Oh, what? Oh no. Oh no, I made it worse. Are you kidding me? It's an ad.
Squarespace is a website that makes websites.
Yeah, I know.
And people...
Shut up.
It's essentially the Asian equivalent of blackface. And that summer, Snapchat came under intense scrutiny for adding a filter which many people think has...
They are angry over a filter. A flippin' Snapchat filter. It doesn't even look the same. Does it? Does it look like... Does it look racist? I don't see it.
exaggerated racist Asian features, such as slanted eyes. Now, Snapchat responded to this by saying that this was meant to be an anime-inspired filter. It was just meant to look like you're an anime character. Obviously, anime is of Japanese origin, it's a Japanese art style, and throughout anime, there have been a number of famous...
Oh no, the anime is racist against Japanese people. Oh no! Stupid.
Characters whose eyes are similar to this filter. So whether this was intentionally or maybe even unintentionally racist, or whether people were just making a mountain out of a molehill, that's for you to decide. But this wasn't the first time that people have deemed a Snapchat filter to be racist. There have been claims for years now that filters cater to white beauty standards because most of them seem to lighten the skin tone, which is especially disastrous for me and the rest of the pale gang because I look like Casper the pasty white ghost in half of my Snapchat pics.
Yeah.
There was also criticism held against it for the Bob Marley filter on 420, with many people saying that the reggae legend was just being seen as nothing more than a weed mascot, and some people even thought that it was blackface. I haven't really used Snapchat too much recently, but I
Bro, it is stupid.
definitely used it back.
Touch grass! Touch some flipping grass! Touch some flipping grass! God.
Then, and I remember that filters came and went extremely quickly. They kind of were there for a week and then they would just go, and that was the case for this Asian anime-inspired filter. The so-called yellow face filter left the app just as quickly as it came on to offend people.
The most overly racist filter ever. Nerd.
People never to return again because of the uproar. But what do you think? Were these filters actually racist, or do you think it was just a bit more of light-hearted fun that was taken way out of context?
It was fun out of context. What do you mean?
Come under fire because of their potential racism. Believe it or not, they've actually come under scrutiny because some people think that they could be deadly. Like it or not, there have been instances in the past where people's lives have almost been the forfeit of a Snapchat filter. And I'm thinking of one in particular. Of course, it is the speed measuring filter, which has actually been recently banned by the platform. And this is why.
How does it kill?
If you've used Snapchat in the past, you might be familiar with it, but just in case you're not, Snapchat back in the day added a bunch of filters that would track a bunch of stuff. You could tag your location, the day of the week, the time, the temperature, as well as what speed you were going at. The idea of this was that if you were in a plane and traveling at hundreds of miles an hour, for instance, that would be quite a cool snap to send to your friend.
Okay, now I understand, because you're on your phone while driving. You're like that. You can't see nothing.
But some people would take this love of social media a bit too far. For example, back in 2016, there was a then 18-year-old named Crystal McGee who was behind the wheel of a Mercedes and tried to go 100 miles an hour to post it on Snapchat. She lost control of her car though and crashed.
You are stupid.
jumped into another vehicle
I'm-
owned by a man named Maynard Wentworth, who was an Uber driver just beginning his shift.
For a flippin' Snapchat filter. Are you
He would subsequently spend 5
dumbfounded
weeks in the ICU
by the
and
dumb.
suffered injuries that left him unable to work. The road this incident occurred on only had a speed limit of 55 miles an hour, but based on crash reenactments, it's thought that McGee could have been going upwards of 107 miles an hour with passengers in her car. Wentworth would take both Snapchat and McGee to court, but the judge ruled that Snapchat would be granted immunity and wouldn't be held responsible for what McGee was doing. And what she was doing was, in my opinion, one of the most idiotic things I have ever heard. She almost killed a man to try and get some arbitrary social media point I have ever heard. She almost killed a man to try and get some arbitrary social media points. What the fuck? But it might have given me one of my favourite pictures on the internet ever. Let me clarify that I don't know if this is 100% real, but based on a bunch of articles that I've read about the situation, I keep seeing this one image, which appears to be McGee taking a selfie in a stretcher. And if we're talking about health concerns, allow me to point you in the direction of a new medical term, I guess, called Snapchat dysmorphia. Though it's hard to believe, this is a new term that's been reported on by Everyday Health, The Guardian, and Healthline. And you might be wondering, what is Snapchat dysmorphia? And I'll tell you. So this is a term coined in the past 5 years or so by cosmetic doctor Tijon Esho, and it refers to people who insistently fixate on their real-life physical appearance compared to what they look like on a Snapchat filter. But obviously it doesn't just have to be a Snapchat filter, this applies to any sort of social media filter. The problem that many people have grown up accustomed to is that these filters are blurring the lines between what's real and what's fake. Your real face looks similar to these filters, but you're not the same. Your skin isn't as clear, your eyes aren't as well shaped, your eyebrows aren't quite as full, and so people are comparing their real faces to these fake, filtered, airbrushed and photoshopped versions of themselves and feeling really bad about it afterwards. Now it's important to mention that this is not a medical diagnosis in the slightest, it's just a phrase that's risen in popularity over the past 5 or so years. But there have been a lot of plastic surgeons that have had patients come in and said the reason that they want to get their plastic surgery is because they don't feel comfortable in their own body because of these filters on social media. And that's really, really sad. There's an entire list of supposed symptoms and whatnot, but the most common ones are that you think that no picture of yourself is ever right, you always want to change something, that posting and taking selfies will cause you anxiety, and that you compare yourself against the impossible to obtain airbrushed versions of yourself. Let me say that for as bizarre as this is, and for as much as people will laugh at you because you've given yourself a complex because of social media, you are enough. Just the way you are. You do not need to look like those filters. Because I'll tell you what, a lot of them are just straight up clapped. No matter what you look like, you're enough. But you also need to take responsibility and
But you ugly. You ugly. I'm just kidding.
distance yourself from social media because it clearly is not healthy for you.
Oh, this stupid.
I think that Snapchat, more than most social media platforms, have had people in the past develop really unhealthy relationships towards it, and I think that one of these symptoms is obsessively stalking people on Snap Maps. Because, yeah, this is just a thing right now, and nobody seems to bat an eye about it, so let's discuss. It's going on 6 years now that Snap Maps dropped, and I still remember that when it came out, I would have been right at the proper age demographic to be really hooked on Snapchat, and according to my cringe-ass memories at the time, yeah, I was. But I definitely remember going to school right after it released, and talking to people who really felt like their privacy had been invaded. If you don't know what Snap Maps is, it's essentially this opt-in thing.
That's just a red flag. If you see somebody else's location in an app, don't download it. Sue them. That is a red flag.
Snapchat up, you can click on this button so you can see where all of your friends are the last time they had Snapchat open, which I'm sure has never caused any problem. in friendships or relationships ever. Yeah, I mean, using snap maps isn't necessary in the slightest, but it's still weird that this is a thing. I looked up online how people reacted to the update when it dropped, and they seemed to share the same sentiment. They thought it was a bit creepy that if you got it turned on, you would just be susceptible to stalking. And once again, this is a reality that we've just since accepted, that literally anyone on our friends list could know exactly where we are at any given moment as long as we've had Snapchat open.
That's scary.
I'll probably just keep mine on. I've had mine on for the past 6 years. I've got really nothing to hide. I'm not a cheater. I'm not living a second life. I usually don't blow off plans with friends. So mine's just going to stay on. It can of course come in handy sometimes. For example, if someone's been abducted or they go missing and they've had their Snapchat open, you can trace them, you can track them, you can find them. So What do you think? Was this a good thing? I'm really not too sure, but I am sure that back in March of 2018, Snapchat fell into some really hot water after being accused of making a joke out of domestic violence.
Oh. That is bad.
The year was 2009, and Rihanna was meant to play at the Grammys, but her performance was abruptly cancelled after reports surfaced that her then boyfriend Chris Brown had physically assaulted her. Long story short, Chris Brown would plead guilty to the charges and was given 5 years of probation, as well as being legally required to stay at least 50 yards or 46 meters away from Rihanna. This was huge news at the time, but it's only natural that in the years since then, it's become more and more of a distant memory. It gets spoken about less and less, but in March 2018, people's attention would once again be drawn to the sad event, as Snapchat would launch a new ad campaign, which was sort of a would you rather style of game. The point of the controversy comes in though when you see that one of the would you rathers were punch Chris Brown or slap.
Oh! Whoa! Oh! Oh! This is so stupid. How is
slap Rihanna, which was immediately jumped on by her fans and the media because it seemed very insensitive to domestic abuse victims. Rihanna took to Snapchat's rival platform
Yes! Yes, slap the woman who had domestic abuse. That'll fix it.
To announce her disgust for the campaign, leading to a disastrous loss of revenue for Snapchat. Shares in the company dropped 5% overnight, and it was later estimated that in total, the company lost $1 billion in value. Many Rihanna fans, as well as people who suffered from domestic violence, boycotted the app in the fallout of this. In response to this, Snapchat claimed that it was a mistake that this ad ever ran in the first place, claiming that it violated their own guidelines, and adding an apology to Rihanna. This severely hurt the company's image, and though Snapchat claimed it was a mistake, it led many people to wonder how it was even greenlit in the first place. And while we're talking about green, it's no secret that Snapchat has been in the center of drug deals for a long time now. Or maybe it is a secret to you. Either way, I don't want to be a snitch, so if you're a law enforcement officer, please click off this video now. But yeah, this is one of the most popular apps that people contact their dealers on because of the anonymity of it. Messages disappear, so unlike Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp, it's harder to trace who's bought what. This isn't to say that people don't contact their dealers through other apps, but Snapchat is one of, if not the main social media platform for this. But it might not be for too much longer, because over the past few years, Snapchat has kind of built up a reputation for this. Most people that I know that use Snapchat frequently do it for hookups or drugs. But in 2022, the app was under the microscope because it appears as though more and more teenagers especially are using the app to purchase illegal substances. Believe it or not, I don't do drugs at all. And I'm not just saying that because my family watches these videos sometimes. I was raised right, they don't really interest me whatsoever, so it would be a bit crap if I tried to explain this. So I found an article published by NBC. It was written by Olivia Solon in October 2021. And it seems to have a better grasp on the situation than I could ever tell you, so we're just going to read off that. It reads, counterfeit prescription pills that look like legitimate medications such as Percocet, OxyContin, and Xanax, but actually contain a dose of potent synthetic opioid fentanyl have been linked to a wave of deaths in the United States over the last few years. And 2 in 5 of those tested in the United States contain enough fentanyl to kill. It went on to say that Snapchat have increased their detection tools for this kind of stuff, leading to a 112% increase in accounts being banned from the platform in the first half of 2021. If users search up fentanyl in the Snapchat search bar, they'll receive a PSA on the dangers of drugs. But unfortunately, this doesn't seem to have made too much of an impact, because even as recently as last week, Fox News reported a further 8 fentanyl-related deaths spread across 6 states from pills purchased on Snapchat. Tragically, each of these people were aged between 15 and 22 and had their entire lives cut short.
Wow.
Snapchat themselves will come out and say that there was still a lot of action left to be taken, and based off that, they're not wrong. There's still
One Snapchat employee is doing
a
this.
lot more to be done, because
He's
especially
greenlighting
still
all
done.
this.
But because this is such a large part of Snapchat, I want to take the time to delve into a single story in particular and shift the focus from the people that are consuming these